Hey, how's it going? So, some of you have asked me to talk more about TouchOSC, the app, especially regarding DAW control, and I was thinking of it for Spitfire libraries, but I also made one for Swam saxes, and also that one also works with the contact audio modeling trumpets. But you could do it for anything. Anyway, so I'll try to make this one a little more detailed so you can know more how it works. So if you want to get into this, here's the first step. What I'm going to do here is my camera, shrink her down a little. Whoa! Put myself low. Okay, so you're going to go to the World Wide Web. The information superhighway, and you're going to go to hexler.net/TouchOSC. This is step one. Okay, and you can read about it. They just made a new version, which was like the first new version in 10 years or so. And anyway, I think it's better, although it's 10 times more confusing than the first one that took me 10 years to understand. So, but there are some benefits to it, like the editor, instead of being just a desktop application, every version of it has an editor built in, whether you're on your iPhone or iPad, or you can do it on the desktop if you prefer, which is easier. And I don't know, just in general, it seems to actually work better, especially the OSC part of it. Okay, so anyway, what you want to do, you scroll all the way down here, and you have to download TouchOSC Bridge, and you're going to want to install that for either Windows or Mac. It's free, and it's a little goofy. See this icon down here, the B? You double click it, and nothing happens, but you believe me, if you check your system tray, it is running there. Okay, and so that's also step one, troubleshooting. If this doesn't automatically go, you get, and you're moving your control whatever, and it's not working, make sure bridge is really running. It'd be nice if it went, ta-da, bridge now connected. Okay, and then the other thing you can download here for the desktop, you can do Mac, Windows, or Linux. And you really can use it, I guess, as the controller too. Although why you'd want to do that, I don't know. But you could, if you prefer editing with a mouse rather than your finger swiping around, it's easier to do it there. Okay, that's free, or you can buy a license. So anyway, the actual app on your mobile device will either be, on one of these, iPhone, get App Store, Android, you get Google Play. I don't know what Amazon App Store is all about. But I have an iPad, so I went on the App Store, and I think it's $9.99. And this will work on your iPhone or iPad, and whatever. So this part goes on your actual device. So you're going to install that, let's say on your iPad. You're going to install the bridge on your computer. You're going to make sure you double click it to make sure it's running. And then, all DAWs are a little bit different, but in general, this is what you do. And I'm going to add my iPad capture here, make that there, so hopefully you can see that as well. And we'll go into the DAW I'm using is Reaper, which is a great DAW if you if you want to check it out. But you can do all the same stuff in Pro Tools, or Logic, or Cubase, or I don't know, Digital Performer, or God knows what. Whatever DAW you like, okay? So to set this up, when you first open it, I'm on my iPad here. This is like the Untitled, so there's nothing there. But to set up your connections, see this chain link thing in the upper right? You hit that, and for your MIDI, you want to press Browse, and it'll show you what's connected. Now you have to be connected. You can do it via USB, but you can also do it via Wi-Fi. So I'm via Wi-Fi. But there's bridge 1. And you say, yeah, for a send and receive on connection 1. This is going to allow you to send MIDI information and only MIDI information via the bridge. Okay. Then OSC, you can do the same thing, browse, and find your computer's IP address. And you want UDP of the connection type. TCP client, TCP server are for sharing your templates between your different devices. Send port 8000, receive port 9000. And the 0 config, I have LogicTouch. And then bridge, I used it with USB at first, but connection 1, you want to browse, and there's your computer's IP address should appear. Okay, so those 3 things are crucial for any of this to work. And then within your DAW, you have to make places for those things to link in. So for MIDI, on Reaper, under Preferences, MIDI Devices, whatever your DAW is, find your preferences for your MIDI devices. And here we have TouchOSC Bridge enabled plus control. So we can do note inputs and CC messages. And I just don't set the channel because it's all going to come in on channel 1. But if you had a more complicated setup and really want to only send certain CC messages from TouchOSC and make sure they didn't go other places, you could control that. And then you also want MIDI input and output TouchOSC Bridge, because it'll actually update like your faders and stuff like that. It'll sync with what's on your computer. So anyway, yeah, that's the bridge part. Now this is just for MIDI. And so when you're thinking about what you want to do, I was confused about this for a long time because it's called TouchOSC. So everything's kind of OSC bridgey, but like the MIDI messages are like note on, note off, velocity, whatever. Any MIDI CC 0 to 127 and its value, polyphonic after touch, you know, all the MIDI stuff. And if you want a reference, I bet you could Google MIDI CC reference, and I bet you'd get a continuous controller reference chart like this. So here's like pan, it's CC10, or CC11 is expression, and all that kind of stuff. You can change these to be whatever you want, but I think it makes the most sense to use the ones that are common, so you don't have to reprogram every patch, and I'll show you what I mean. But anyway, this is all the stuff you could send via MIDI. For OSC messages, which are a whole separate pipeline, what you want to do is control surfaces. On Reaper, it's control surfaces / OSC / web control. And you'll add. And the mode is important because this is sort of like the language it's going to use. Like a lot of those old like Mackie hardware controllers were Huey. A lot of things were Huey compatible. Or I guess they have Mackie ones. If you have a PreSonus fader port, that's got its own little language. But what we want is OSC, Open Sound Control. Okay, and the settings that you want. You can name it. Just that doesn't really affect anything other than reminding you what it is. This says iPhone. It's really iPad. I guess it could be both. Whatever. And the pattern config, you'll have default, Logic Pad, LogicTouch, refresh list, all this kind of stuff. Just do LogicTouch. And then the mode, configure device IP plus local port. You don't want to just send or just receive. You want configure device IP plus local port. And then like your local IP is your computer, your laptop or your desktop, right? And the device IP you might have to look up for your iPhone or your iPad. Apparently I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but apparently some people have had issues using Wi-Fi that their device's IP changes if their router gets reset or something like that. So keep that in mind, that maybe it might change. I don't know if that's if that really happens. And then device port is 9,000 and local listen port is 8,000. So if we go back to our OSC stuff, we got the host in there, and that matches the host local IP. That's our desktop. The send port is 8,000, and so this local listen port, so we're sending from 8,000 on the send port. On the local listen port, it's 8,000, so they match. And the device port that Reaper's going to send out to the device is 9,000, and the receive port on the iPad is 9,000, so they mix up. I don't know if every DAW has this, but on Reaper you could press listen, and then I can pull up one of these and mess around, and you'll see, whoa, group XY, weird numbers and stuff. Okay, and that can just let you know that it's connected. At least it's hearing it. Maybe it's not sending it, but that's a good way to test it. I think OSC has some other kind of listener deal, but if it's not getting into your DAW, then that's not particularly useful. So that can kind of help you ensure it is working. And I say allow binding messages to Reaper, Actions, and FX Learn. I don't know what that is, but it seems like that works. I'm also not like the biggest expert on this of all time, but I am the kind of person that will just spend 10 years trying to figure something out. So I could, if I'm wrong about any of this, let me know. So you got your control surface set up. That's going to allow you to receive OSC messages. You might wonder, well, what would I send over OSC? That would be like what you would use if you had a physical controller for your DAW, like play, stop, record, moving faders up and down, not within a plugin, but your like DAW channel mixers, panning, sends, like sending, to a reverb track or something like all your like DAW functions. And apparently I'm just sort of starting to figure out a little more of this too, because I think over OSC you can kind of send almost anything like keystrokes, and maybe even accelerometer data, because I also mess with some 3D animation, and there's like, you could put an OSC input in that, and I was like, what could I do with that? So I'll let you know. But now we're going to get into some math that I don't understand. But essentially, OSC, it uses these UDP sockets. And remember, on our chain link setup, the connection was UDP under OSC. So that's good. It's open-ended, dynamic, URL style, symbolic naming scheme. I wish I understood this more. The OSC specification. Maybe I should. Okay, so data types. Integer, int32, float 32, OSC time tag, OSC string, which are ASCII characters followed by null, and all kind. I don't know what any of this stuff is. Multiples of 4 and bytes. OSC blob, packets, clients, servers. all kind of fun stuff. OSC message has the general format. So anyway, I'm going to have to research this more to understand a little more how the OSC works and maybe how to write the code, because it's a little bit of pain in the ass. All right. Anyway, so we've got our MIDI set up. We've got our control surface set up. All that stuff is good. Now, just for an example, and you probably see this on my other videos, but let's say this is Contact Violins legato performance, and let's use my Spitfire Control. So on this is kind of to edit it in this screen, and you have to press this play button, and that's when it becomes the thing you can actually use. Right? Is my iPad on there? I hope. It seems to like not be updating, is it? iPad? Yeah. iPad, are you there? Let's see if it is my capture still going? No, I don't want it. The camera. Sorry, I'll figure it out. Maybe this has to refresh or something. Hello. 3, 2, 1. There we go. That looks more promising. Okay. Sorry if that wasn't actually showing you that before. Okay. So here, if that wasn't, it's hard for me to see all these things at once. So here is our TouchOSC. When you first open it, you'll probably have an Untitled. Now see these chain link things here? This is what I was talking about. Sorry. MIDI. You'll press Browse and choose your bridge on Send and Receive. OSC. Oh, I can't click on it there. OSC. You want the UDP connection type. 192.168. That's my desktop IP. Send port 8000, receive port 9000. Zero config is LogicTouch. And then bridge. I'm so crazy. Bridge, connection 1, and there's our IP address hooked up to the desktop computer through the bridge. So if all of these things and the stars have aligned, it might not still work. If any part of bridge, OSC, or your DAW is blocked by your firewall, and depending on if you're Mac, if you're on a PC, you might not have Bonjour already on there, but just install Apple iTunes, I think, or maybe you can put Bonjour by itself, but that seems sometimes like it needs that to work. So here's Spitfire Control, and if we say this plus button, here it is, right? And I can move my finger. I've got my iPad sitting here. Okay. So if we go back, I'm going to make this a little smaller and go back to Reaper. So what I've set up here is, let's say for this violin track, your MIDI input, I have my Impact LX88 Plus. That's this 88 key controller keyboard. That in and of itself is good. TouchOSC Bridge is good, but we really want both Impact and TouchOSC Bridge, and I think there's shortcuts on different DAWs to like Shift, Control, Alt, click or some shit to get 2 MIDI inputs at once. But if you don't have other MIDI inputs, what I do is I just say all MIDI inputs, all channels, all the time. That way I'm sure to get the controller and TouchOSC. So if I record enable this bad boy and I play on this keyboard, in real time I can move my XY controller that I've made here. And from left to right, it's linked to the dynamics. And then from the bottom to the top, that's vibrato. Okay, so that's sending MIDI messages through the MIDI bridge, our old buddy. And just for fun, let me show you the other thing here that might be useful to you. If we go to contact, and let's choose just, I don't know, some kind of Spitfire something. Spitfire somebody. How about studio strings? Let's do the violins core techniques. See how our articulations are laid out? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you have a total of like 18 possible. Well, see on my TouchOSC guy here, we've got these 9. And these are assigned to be key switches. So if we're playing, we're on the longs, right? And again, dynamics. Vibrato. Let me check something here. This is a little preview of the editor, but that's being a little weird. It should be on. Oh, channel. Here we go. That's what's wrong. Okay. I changed the channel, so it's all good now. I hope. Okay, we'll save that as Spitfire Control. Yes. Okay. So now vibrato works. Press play. So here's our longs, right? Let's say we want different articulations. There's the longs concertino, long harmonics, long flautando, so on and so forth. All of them, and they're lined up 9 and 9, just like it is on there. So you can kind of just look and say, oh, it's the 4th one over. Okay. And I think that's the max that Spitfire usually uses, at least on the contact libraries. There's maybe more on like Eric Whitaker Choir or whatever, but I did these for the contact one. So, and okay, so if we go back here, how I made this is first, see this plus sign here? You can create a box, a button, a label, text, all kinds of stuff like that. I created a XY, and then whatever you want to edit, you have to tap. So like, if you want to edit this thing, tap it first. If you want to edit this thing, tap it first. And then see these 3 lines? This opens up our editor. And let me make this a little bigger. Oh yeah, looks good. Okay. So here's our editor, which looks pretty overwhelming at first, at least to me. But we've selected our XY deal. And there's all kinds of shit. We got document, width, height, color, and all that kind of stuff. That's like the background, though. So if you wanted, you could change the background of your whole layout and be kind of snazzy. Let's go with that. Although I kind of like more a teal. All right, for control, the type is XY, and it's called XY1. You could rename it something else if you wanted. And then this thing keeps track of where it is. You can change the color of the actual XY deal if you want. I have it checked as visible, interactive, And there's a full outline. You could change the outline to be corners or edges or whatever. Grab focus, where it, I think, kind of lights up when you tap it. Pointer oldest, corner 1, orientation north. So anyway, the deal that you actually need to do if you're making this from scratch, if you wanted to control two things at once with an XY, is, let me minimize some of these so you see how it looks. Okay, so this looks cleaner, right? We don't need to see everything at once. We'll see that under XY, that stuff by default is just fine, and the values is just fine by default. What we want to go is messages. This is, there's 3. And so to add one, you can press this green plus. So MIDI control change 1, it's enabled to send and receive. It's going on connections number 1. Remember, we set up a number 1 connection. That's our bridge for MIDI stuff. Trigger X. So this is like which axis you want to define what it's going to do. And the type we want is control change on channel 1 and all that kind of fun stuff. And you can also set the scale. So like if you didn't ever want to go all the way to 127 for some reason, or all the way to 0, you could limit it if you wanted. But there's different scales, and why they call it this, I don't know. It's very confusing. But basically this first scale under controller, that is really, the first number is really what CC number. And so I have it at 1 because that's what's already mapped for dynamics, also known as the mod wheel, right? So like I don't want to choose, oh, I want to control my dynamics with channel 93, and then every single contact instance of every single Spitfire thing I open, I have to either right click and MIDI learn or reset it manually. That seems like a big waste of time. So if it already has something consistent that it always uses amongst different products, just use that. Save yourself some time. So that's on the x-axis, and the MIDI control change on the y-axis. It's all the same settings, except instead of trigger X, it's trigger Y. Any touch, it's a control change on channel 1. But this time, the scale is really the CC number, the first scale under controller. I have that set to 21. Why? Because all the contact Spitfire stuff I have, the vibratos are already set to be on CC 21. And then we have this OSC message. I don't know that this is actually crucial or not. I think that just automatically generated when you add the XY. So I'm assuming leave it in. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not like the world's greatest expert on this, but I have tried very hard to figure it out. So now if we go play, ooh, now we got blue. It's actually pretty obnoxious. I don't like that at all. So you can always go here, edit the document, and just go jet black. Okay, and the other things here to save is this folder down, because everybody knows save is always folder down arrow. It's cool software, but man, it's not user friendly. So if you're frustrated with this, at least it's not going to take you 10 years like it took me. And if you want to import something, that's folder up. You know, the common thing for import, folder up. And if you're looking for the preset ones, it's this book. Because book preset. Okay. And some of those are usable. Okay. So let me. Oh, so here's the other thing. So Spitfire Control. We have this other cool feature. Let me make this a little smaller. That I could never get to work on the Mark 1 version of TouchOSC. But it's not a MIDI message. It's an OSC message. I could do stuff like record. And it really starts recording. Right? It's like, oh, it's nice. I don't have to keep going over to the computer. And I could press click. And it will turn the click on or off. And then I could play something. Sorry, my speakers went to sleep on me, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's useful. You can also press stop or play just right there. Now that I don't actually completely understand how that works, but I'll show you the sneaky thing I did. So I tried making buttons and tell them to press stop and play and record, and no matter what I did, it didn't work. And I think the issue was it needs some kind of script. So if we choose this top guy here, we could see that there's 4 messages. There's an OSC message here. So it's like /1, /2, /3, /4, all that kind of fun stuff. But I think that's the pages. So if we double click on this, so like record, for instance. Okay, here we go. And here's where you can change colors and all that kind of fun stuff. There's one TouchOSC message. Those other ones I think were switching pages if you had a multiple page thing. So this OSC, there's one message that's going on connection 1, trigger X, touch. Now the address is /parent.name/name. And that's what it has to be. Why exactly, I don't know. And if you're wondering what's the name is under values. No, I lied. Control, yeah, name, record. All lowercase. So an argument's X. Why that is, I don't know exactly know, but if you click script here, there's nothing. So I thought at first, like, oh, well, I could just make my own. I could do that, but it didn't work. I was like, oh, what the hell? And all the other ones are the same. Click is just like that, just basically changing the name. But what I figured out is that this whole guy, if we go to script, has all this stuff, local path arguments and OSC_LUT equals crazy brackets. Okay, so when you press play or record or anything, these worked. I'm like, well, what's the difference? And I think this whole box it's in is an object that has this script that it needs. So maybe I could copy and paste the object or something. I don't know. So what I did is I tapped this, and you can copy and paste up here with these double pages. And then on Spitfire Control, I pasted the whole thing and then just deleted out, everything else. FX, these pages, the EQ, the track name, panning, all that stuff, because I don't want that on this one. But this is a cool one if you just want to write in like automation, volume automation or something for a track. that's a good one to use. So that's the workaround I figured out, since I don't know what the hell this OSC underscore LUT path message stuff is. But if you know, you tell me, and I'll try to figure it out too. But in the meantime, if you wanted stop, play, record, and click, there it is. And I'll put these in the Google Drive thing if you guys want to download the templates. Just click the link below. So here's the other one I made, that whether you have SWAM horns or not, or audio modeling horns or not, hopefully this will be useful just to see like different stuff you can do. So back on our old buddy Reaper, I got the SWAM tenor sax. So these are like modeling saxophones that are strangely good. And similar to Spitfire, on here they call it expression. And then I've got vibrato. Hey,
Mama's going to sleep.
Is she?
Yeah, didn't you text her? She said that she did.
You know, I'm filming a thing on the phone there, so I didn't see any text.
Oh, we're supposed to come on.
Oh, are you going to sleep right now or not yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. I just need like 5 minutes to finish this video real quick, and then I'll come right up.
Okay. Yep, as soon as I can.
Okay, love you. All right. So, anyway, so we got our dynamics and all that kind of fun stuff. Now you'll notice that as I am sliding up and down, the vibrato rate is going up and down, but never goes full, right? And then I've got this other control here. So if we're playing, that's the growl. So I've added that. And its own little guy. The mutes don't do anything for these. Those are for the trumpets and trombones. So the way I set this up is if I go to options here, and we go to MIDI Mapping, expression was on 11, so I had to change that already from the Spitfire one, right? And vibrato depth is 1. Vibrato rate is 19. The growl is CC21. Anyway, you can see that how all this stuff works by looking up where stuff is, right? So, and you can change your options here as far as the curves and what the vibrato rate is and how much randomness and whatever. So I don't know, I mess around with those a lot. But if we look over here, the play and stuff is the same. If we look at the XY fader over here, it's yellow. It's important. And it's got 6 messages on this XY. Seems excessive. But the 6 messages, the first one is a control change on the y-axis. And remember, the scale is actually CC number 11. So that's our dynamics, or as they call it here, expression. Then the second thing I have on the y-axis is CC1. And so if we go to options and look at MIDI mapping, CC1 is vibrato depth. So I made it so like the louder it gets, the more vibrato depth it has. So kind of hitting, I don't want to hit any birds with stones, but you know what I mean. Okay, then we also have on the Y19 another, I'm sorry, that one's on the X. And, oh, sorry, no Y. And if we look here, we will see that 19 is vibrato rate. That one really is on the Y. So notice when I put more vibrato, it also gets faster. And then if we look at this one, it's number 20 on the X. And number 20 for these guys, I have no idea. I don't know what that was supposed to be. Maybe I was experimenting with something. Or maybe that's for something on the horns. Huh. I have no idea what that is. Well, anyway, the last one here is CC26, which if we go to MIDI mapping on here is also nothing. Those must be for the audio modeling ones, or else I'm going insane. Anyway, so, and then the growl is just a fader that I put. So let's check this out and see what this actually does. If we close down Swam here, and let's pull up like the Trumpet. It's a contact instrument, the audio modeling trumpets. And we need to record, enable it. Oh, okay, I know what they are now. So here's the trumpet. So it's pretty expressive. So as you see, as I move on the x-axis, I set this one up so dynamics go up and down, which is good on CC11. That 26, CC26 is the attack time. So I made it that the louder you are, you get the shorter attack time, so think like loud staccato notes. Whereas if you're playing really quiet, you kind of fade in a little on the attack time. And then as far as that CC19, that was the vibrato rate. And we have vibrato intensity on CC1. So there's kind of a lot going on just to XY, and it's, I mean, these are all monophonic instruments, so I can have one hand just kind of doing the dynamics and the vibrato and the attack time and the vibrato intensity and the rate and all that kind of fun stuff with just one finger. And if we look at the second controllers, attack modulation is that CC20, which scales with volume Growler CC21 on its own fader. This one I don't have anything on. Virtual soundstage. What makes stuff fly around? Well, anyway, so the mutes, they have it on a rotary encoder here for the different mutes on contact, so none. Or as you scroll through 1 through 127 on CC100, you get the different mutes, so none, straight, cup, bucket, Harmon, Harmon plus the little stem thingy, and mute for unison ensemble. You have a bunch of them play mutes together so it doesn't phase out. So I put that here on this mutes fader left to right, which is basically just saying, hey, on CC 100, go 0 to 127. So I can kind of choose the mutes that way. I could have put it on a rotary on the iPad, but that seems really hard for some reason. I don't know. I don't like that as much. But let's say we took a trumpet, a trombone, and a tenor sax here. And the trombone is another audio modeling guy, right? Then, I could play with one hand monophonically, mess around with this XY controller. And that sax seems kind of loud. Let's get more trombones. Let's do 3 trumpets, 4 trombones, all on their separate deal. And let's get our tenor sax. Let's get a alto sax and our bari sax in there. They'll all play together because they're friends. Then the mutes. Let's ditch the saxes and just have our brass people. Let's do 1 trumpet and 1 trombone. Or whatever, right? So it's just kind of cool to have that much control while you're just playing around. And you don't have to go back and like automate all of that stuff tediously. You can record it. You can record it in real time. So anyway, anything MIDI you want to do, you can do, and faders and mutes and solos, if you want to use it like that as a DAW controller, you could do that too. So anyway, I hope that is helpful. And that's pretty much everything I know about that. Oh, one other thing. If you wanted, let's say you made a layout on your desktop or on your phone. I'm using my phone to record the videos. I can't exactly do this right now, but it's this editor network that looks like a Wi-Fi signal deal. You make one of them the server and say enabled, and then the one that's going to send it, and then the one that's a client, you can put connect, and it'll show up the available servers. You connect to it, and then it's like instant that whatever layout you have on the server just suddenly appears on the client, and you have to save it as a file on the client. And that's how you can send different layouts to different devices. If you have your iPad on you, it's easier to hold your iPhone with your thumb and do your dynamics. You could do that or whatever. I'll show you this lastly before we go. I'll ditch that. Okay, so just in case you want to mess with the desktop version, it's this. Oh, new version. Added local. Okay, remind me later. So on the desktop version, it looks pretty much the same, except the nice thing is you always see the navigator view. At least you can if you want. I guess you don't have to, but it's kind of nice. So if you're making a new template from scratch, like, oh, I'm going to make a XY here. I'm going to resize this dude. I'm going to make him, some color, green. And you say, okay, for the X deal, I want to send it to CC1. You change this scale to 1 and say, oh, MIDI control change Y. I want to send CC21. You can change this scale to 21, or you can type it in. And then you're good to go. You can press play, you can test it, use your mouse. Whee! This little hidden dot up here to get back. And same thing, the connections and everything are all the same setup with MIDI, OSC, and Bridge. And sharing stuff by here and making this the server, enabling it, and connecting it, and all that kind of fun stuff. It's just kind of easier to see and stuff with seeing both at once, and also using mouse is nice. I think I'm old, so I don't know. The other thing you might notice is there's no book icon for like where's the preset shit. And if you go to help, examples, there they are. You can even have Pong, which is kind of amazing. Boop. Now see how they did this? I don't know how. It's kind of crazy, and you're playing versus yourself. You're both people because it moves them both at the same time. So I don't know if you can win. You could throw the game. So that's kind of funny, but it shows, I mean, apparently there's a lot you can do on here that I don't even know. And then they also have examples here like script keyboard, or if you play it, you can type stuff in and change the text size. And I don't know if that's really sending somewhere OSC, or if it's more for just if you wanted your typewriter on here. I don't know what exactly that's about. Or like examples, they have script demo. And if you press play, I don't know what all this is. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. I don't know if it's just a cool visualization. We have X and Y. We could change RGB stuff. But what all these crazy things are, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. But like this thing that's zooming across, that's just a script. In the script is all this crazy stuff. Children and frame and colors and get millis and I don't know. It doesn't appear that they do anything as far as they're not sending any messages, MIDI or OSC. I think it's just they look cool. But maybe you could also force it to do something. I don't know. I think there's a lot of untapped potential here. Or if you want, you know, a simple thing to mix with faders. You got pads. Our old buddy XY. This crazy matrix. There's lots of cool stuff you can make. So let me know if you have any questions and check the link below for the drive download for, I'll put the newest Spitfire one and the Swam / audio modeling one. And you can give it a check out and see if it works for you. And yeah, good luck with it. It can be really frustrating to set up, but once it gets going, it's awesome and very useful. So gets my vote. All right. Well, talk to you later and have a good one.